This is Zestology. It's the podcast all about energy, vitality and motivation. Everything is energy. And I'm Tony Wrighton. Today, sort out your stress, your pain, your low energy, your headaches, anxiety, depression, poor skin, low fertility, bad digestion and a lack of sleep. I'm kind of hoping you don't have all of those. But if you've got one or two of them, or if one or two of them occasionally pop up, we're going to sort them out today. Does that sound good? Katie Brindle was an excellent guest on Zestology. After a car accident that ended her dreams of becoming an opera singer, followed by complications around fertility, Katie Brindle used Yang Sheng to solve her health problems and thousands of others around the world. What is Yang Sheng? You will find out. By the way, before I go any further, I should probably tell you it's deafeningly loud. The nature noises in the background, isn't it? I'm by the River Thames in West London. I like to get out and about recording these podcast intros. I'm very lucky to live by the river, so come down here. It's a beautiful evening. The birds are going crazy, and that's what you can hear. So Katie Brindle is a Chinese medicine doctor who knows her stuff. And today, as well as that ancient item that helps you tone up, lose weight, and stop going bald, which you will find out about on today's Zestology, you will also learn how to combat the 3 p.m. slump that many of us get after lunch and other Chinese medicine hacks from a Chinese medicine doctor herself. A big focus, though, is the ancient item that gives you this energy. I mean, it's very cool, actually. We talk about this on the podcast. It's something that's been around for many years, but it's a simple item, and it helps you have more energy, get rid of fat, keep the hair growing nice and thick on the head, stops you going bald. What is it? You'll have to listen in to find out. Here she is, Katie Brindle on Zestology. We've already had a wide-ranging chat. Before we've even started, I've got like Netflix recommendations, and I'm kind of jacked up on tea, which you tell me has only got a little bit of caffeine in it, but I feel pretty good about it. Do you know, I want to go over your story in a second, but I thought we could just start with the comb. Okay. Because I'm quite interested in the comb.
Yeah.
You have a device that can do all sorts of miracle things. And if it wasn't for the fact that I'm into some quite alternative things anyway, I'd be very highly sceptical of this.
Yes.
But I do want to know exactly what it is and how it works.
Well, absolutely. I think you're summarising what most people think, which is, what's this and why do I care?
Yeah.
And I think we've all been marketed to now for so long that any new thing you think, oh, yeah, right, what are they thinking of next? But actually, the comb is a very, very ancient tool. I mean, it's thousands of years old, and it's been used in Chinese self-treatment techniques for thousands of years on millions of people, and it totally works. It basically works on the principle of gua sha, which is how most of the tools work that I've got in the range, which is a very simple technique, which means press stroke to create a rash. And really what you're doing is you're using the rounded edge of the comb prongs here. So it looks like a normal comb, but it's made of jade, basically. And it's got the teeth of the comb here have got a rounded edge. And you press stroke them lightly over the skin, either in the shower or just onto dry skin. And you can see the striations that appear. So it's a very energizing feeling on the skin. So it starts to basically draw the circulation up to the surface of the skin by 400%.
Right.
And therefore it clears any stagnation in the circulation, it moves lymphatics, and basically keeps everything moving really well. But the reason why everyone's gone berserk for this is that it spot reduces fat. And it does. And the world's gone bananas, because traditionally you use the combing for what we call meridian combing. So you comb all over the body and you clear out the meridians. And that has a huge health benefit and makes you feel really awake. So it's very good in the shower. But what the reason why people are actually buying it is, never mind that. Actually, if you've got a wobbly bit that you just simply, it defies all diets, you just press stroke over it and allow the circulation to come right up. The redness will then start to disappear within a matter of seconds. And you just keep repeating it. So you do it every day in the shower. Okay,
and this might be the question of a Philistine.
Yeah.
But if I was to do that with a normal comb, it wouldn't work, would it?
No, because the teeth of the comb have to be a certain dimension and a certain thickness. And also, jade in Chinese medicine has a particular relationship with the circulation and the energy of the body. So you don't get the 400% increase of microcirculation if you're just using a normal plastic comb. Plus, it doesn't feel very nice, whereas this is hugely pleasurable. So using this comb first thing in the morning in the shower is an absolute wake-up call to the body. I mean, it literally just makes your shower really kind of zingy. It gives you that really kind of fresh out of bed feeling that most of us don't have.
Right.
You know, in an ideal world, we'd be doing half an hour of yoga and qigong first thing, you know. But in reality, most people don't actually have time to do that. Yeah. So this is a very simple tool that you can use for, 2 or 3 minutes in your shower and have a huge benefit to the body.
I got really into Qigong and Tai Chi, and that was part of the reason that I wanted to meet you. And then read some fantastic books on Chinese healing, and especially related to sexuality, which I just thought was really fascinating.
Oh yeah, there's loads of that.
What is it? Withholding.
Yes.
For men, which we covered on another podcast.
Oh, have we now?
It's really
right,
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you tried it?
And so I've got an open. Yeah, I have. Yes. It improves. Yeah. So I'm certainly open-minded to this. I still kind of struggle to imagine how it could work so well, but I know that you've been kind of talking about this stuff for a while, and then it's all kind of exploded for you in the last couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Well, the comb has exploded in the last couple of weeks. Thank goodness, because it deserves its seat at the table. Because the thing is with these techniques is they're very, very simple, and they are like brushing your teeth. So I feel like 100 years ago, we'd be sat here, pretend, with this technology, and you'd be going, oh, my teeth feel terrible. What do I do about it? I'd go, try this brush. And you're like, oh, what's that? Oh, I'm not sure about that. No, I don't know. And that's the thing with our bodies, is that we've got our heads around brushing our teeth on a daily basis. And it's extremely simple. And we do tend to, I know we know we're not supposed to eat sugar, blah, blah, but we all, not all of us, but many people do. But we kind of know smugly that as long as we brush our teeth every day, we can kind of get away with it, give or take. Well, it's the same thing for our bodies. But at the moment, the way that we're managing our bodies is normally by going, oh, well, I need to cut out all the things I quite like, red wine, or, I don't know, watching telly and not getting to the gym tonight because I'm too tired. Because we think that's the way that we're going to organise our bodies. But what these Chinese techniques give us is basically the equivalent of a toothbrush for the bodies. So you only need to do these techniques for 1 or 2 minutes a day, and you're going to have a massive benefit because they're basically working with your circulation.
And is it energising as well?
Well, massively, yeah, because what is energy?
Because I'm thinking this is a beauty technique, maybe it's not for blokes, but this podcast is about energy, and I'll do it if it's for energy.
Well, the thing is, this brand is for everyone. Now, what's happened is I'm a health practitioner. I mean, I'm a Chinese doctor, so I'm not a makeup artist, I'm not a beautician, I'm not a facialist. I'm medically trained, and I'm passionate about making people well and keeping people healthy. What's happened is that the beauty market picked up on what I'm doing because a lot of people, we're all quite vain. We all want to look our best, and therefore people will listen to you if it makes them look better. So therefore they heard, because they'll do anything to look better. So it's like, oh, what? I just press stroke this thing on my skin. All right, I'll do that. Oh, it works. Whereas the message that I was actually going out with always from the beginning was a wellness message. This is how you can feel better. And finally, that message is coming in behind because people are kind of waking up to the fact that a tool like this is not a girly tool. It's green. It's a comb. Blokes use combs. It's very good for hair loss, which is it's a concern for men, thinning hair in this day and age. A lot of men are losing their hair in our culture. And it's very good for keeping you energised and in good peak performance in terms of sport or any kind of male activities. So the comb originally, when it came out, was very much for hair loss and hair thinning. And I talked to a lot of men about that in clinic. I mean, I do see a lot of men. And it was a massive area of concern. And then now it's taken its place as, okay, weight loss is possibly more of a female thing. But combing your meridians every day, just simply combing your body in the shower, is so much more effective for your body than, say, using, I don't know, a scrub or a brush or just using your hands and water. You're going to get a bang for your buck in a much better way. And that's aside from the hair thinning, which is also a massive aspect of what it does.
I might come back to you on the hair thinning in 10 years' time, but I'm all right for the moment.
You're all right, but yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, did you know that I'm very into emotional freedom therapy or tapping?
Yes.
And that's, kind of got into that years ago, and it really helped me. And before that, I mean, I just thought it was totally woo-woo. But I thought, okay, I've got this problem with energy, and I don't have any, and I'm not even working, and I'd had this virus that I'd got in the jungle and all the rest of it. And that worked incredibly well for me. And that's based on some of the acupuncture points that are closest to the skin around the body. And it's just incredibly powerful. Therefore, I've got an open mind about all of this.
Good, I'm delighted. And tapping is so good for you.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And then, so obviously you said you just went to Glastonbury and then you went to New York a week afterwards.
Yes.
I mean, when you've got a kind of, on that Monday morning when you woke up in the tent in Glastonbury, are you getting the comb out? What kind of techniques are you doing to revitalise yourself after 4 hard... Are you partying?
Yes.
You're allowed to party as well?
Am I allowed?
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Okay, yes, I was. Am I allowed to say that on your podcast? Yes, I was having a good time.
Of course.
Different techniques for different moments in your life. And that's very much what the brand is about. That I sort of sat in my space from my training as a Chinese doctor, looking at the Western market and thinking, right, okay, what's going on here? And I'm thinking, well, there's already loads of great things out there in terms of exercise and hour-long programs and downloads. But I was thinking, going back to the toothbrush, what's missing is these kind of 1 to 2 minute techniques, which are really, really effective, which will just slot into your day, like in your morning shower or when you're waiting for the kettle to boil for your coffee, and you know, or when you're about to reach for your phone because you've got a couple of minutes. You know, you're waiting for an Uber, you're waiting for a train, you're waiting for your luggage at a carousel at the airport. You know, those moments where normally you go onto Instagram and start sort of wasting time browsing stuff. And think, right, let's go there. Let's go to that. That's dead time, and we've all got these little bits of minutes. And I created a series of techniques which comprised of the Heiyu method, and so some of them involve a tool, and some of them don't. And the ones that don't are just as powerful as the ones that do. And a lot of marketing people will go, well, why'd you do that? You need to sell products. So, well, no, because actually the emphasis of this brand is to actually help people, hence why I wrote the book. Because a lot of these techniques are free and very easy. So the very, very simplest energizing technique that I have, which I was using myself after Glastonbury, was the reset ritual, which is on the Heiyu Method homepage, and it's also all through the Instagrams and everything. But it's a very simple 1 minute technique where you shake the body and then you drum the body and twist. And you just do that it's like 20 seconds, 20 seconds, 20 seconds. And it absolutely works, hence why I called it the reset ritual. Because again, if you look at the basic principle of how the body keeps well, whilst Chinese medicine can layer and become very complicated and intricate, at base level, all you're doing is it's the free flow of qi and blood around the body. That's it. That's all you have to do. And as long as that's happening, you are healthy. So when you're dealing with extreme pathologies and problems, it means that the flow is very stagnant and there's a lot of blockages. But if it's just energy levels and you're just feeling knackered and you're about to reach for, another shot of caffeine, what you actually need to do is increase oxygen levels and move it around the body and you will wake up. So, therefore, when you're shaking, what you're doing is you're just freeing stagnation kind of out of where it's being held in the muscles and the tendons and the tissues. And then the tapping dislodges it any further. When you're doing it, you're breathing deeply, so you're encouraging oxygen flow.
Yeah.
And the other great thing about tapping is that the Chinese masters have done tapping for thousands of years. Because what happens is when you're lightly tapping the body, you are very, very slightly opening the pores of the exterior of the bones, especially of the long bones. And the inside the long bones is where basically the marrow is produced. And if you're breathing deeply and tapping onto the long bones, it's a microscopic cellular interaction that's going on, but it totally works. And it energizes the body. And it brings about this state of kind of relaxed calm. So when I do office talks, which I do quite a lot of now, and I talk to a lot of men in offices, sorry to be sexist, but I'm in the city, it's 10 women and sort of 60 blokes out there. And I have to make sure that I twist this to appeal to the men in the room. I'm not going to sit there and talk about beauty restorers all day because I'll lose them. Those are the techniques that we're talking about. A simple breathing technique, a simple reset ritual. It takes a minute and it works.
So it's Monday morning, it's Glastonbury, there's a woman shaking in a field.
There is. No one cares.
Like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, there they go. They're probably thinking something else, but yes, I am the woman shaking in a field.
Yeah. Because it's the shaking, and then what's the second bit?
Shaking, tapping.
Tapping, because
twisting.
that bit, and because I had a look at this, and before we met today, it's around here, isn't it? It's kind of on the collarbone. Is it?
It's all over the body.
Oh, it's all over.
So you start here because what you're doing
because that's the tapping technique.
It's the tapping
EFT
technique,
as well.
but Okay, I'm a Chinese doctor. I'm obsessed with Chinese medicine. As far as I'm concerned, everything that we think we've just discovered, the Chinese knew thousands of years ago, and I'm yet to be proved wrong. But you start on the chest because the heart and the lungs are in the chest, and they are the origin of the cardiovascular system. So if we're looking at this free flow of qi and blood around the body, that's your mantra. Okay, well, what's directing that? Oh, well, the heart, obviously, because it's pumping the blood, and the lungs because they're oxygenating it. Okay, so you need to start here to start freeing everything up. And then you're simply following the meridian flow around the body. Which is
so going down the arm.
Down the inside.
Okay, so from the top of the chest, down the arm.
Yeah, so you go from the chest, you go down the inside of the arm, up the outside, and then you take it around the abdomen, which is really good because certainly with men as well, that if they have got weight issues or kind of that half stone, because we're all so sedentary now, and no matter what they do, they can't necessarily shift it, and it tends to be around the abdomen that men put weight on. Tapping around the abdomen vigorously is incredibly good for reducing fat stores around the abdomen. And then you take it down the outside of the legs and up the inside, and then you finish drumming on the kidneys. But it's all shown on the web on the download feed, which we've got. But it's really simple, and it totally works. That's the thing. It's so effective, and it's very easy to do. And the thing is, whilst when I demonstrate it, I'm sort of, really vigorously shaking. You don't have to look like a complete idiot when you're doing it. When I've come off long flights, so for example, after Glastonbury, I had to go straight to New York. I mean, I was just beside myself with exhaustion. And when I was waiting for my suitcase, I was just sort of standing there, just gently shaking and just sort of gently sort of drumming my body in a sort of random way. And it doesn't look conspicuous. In fact, I noticed a couple of people looking at me and then starting to do it themselves. Because actually, it's not that much different to when you look at, we've got dogs, for example. So, when we're all ready to go for a walk, they have a good stretch before we go, and then off we go, because it's normal behaviour to stretch the body.
Yeah. And I know from your book that you're very into kind of breathing as well. And we mentioned Qigong. Sometimes I wonder, because, a theme that comes up all the time on this podcast is meditation. It's increasingly popular. I know how much it kind of works for me and for a lot of people who listen as well. But sometimes I wonder if I went through this phase of doing a lot of Qigong and really just following videos that I found on YouTube. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew it felt good. I wonder if I should actually do less meditation and more moving meditation like Qigong, something where there's some kind of breath and movement involved as well, because that is so meditative.
Oh, I absolutely love Qigong.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So on my website, and it sounds a bit weird, it's like two websites, but anyway, on the Katie Brindle website, and indeed in the book, there's 5 key Qigong exercises, which are just 1 minute each. They are so powerful. They work so well.
Can we do one now?
Which one should we do? Let me just do the most simple one ever. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll leave the recorder there.
Right, I'm now standing up to demonstrate.
Yeah,
so,
I'm standing up. I need this.
Yes, so having done the shaking,
so
let's just shake for a second and just kind of, because the shaking is the basics of basics.
The Glastonbury shake.
The Glastonbury shake, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I have had Ian Wright do this. Am I allowed to name drop?
Have you?
So should I call this the Ian Wright shake? Name drop.
Yeah.
But he's fab.
Come and stand here a little bit so you're closer to the recorder. There we go.
So a really, really simple Qigong move. This is the most basics of basics. Is it's the abdominal twist. Okay. So all you're going to do, because a lot of things get stagnant around the middle. It messes up the digestive system, and it results in abdominal fat. So a simple thing is you're just standing with your feet aside, and you're just going to lean back, and then lean all the way around. So you're going to create a circle. So you're keeping your hips straight, but you're moving your torso. And now go slowly, really slow. The trick to Qigong is to go slowly. Right, can you feel? Wow, I mean, this is the simplest exercise in terms of what I'm telling you to do, and yet...
Yes.
I mean, you're like, oh!
I know.
Right, and that's all you have to do.
I played cricket a couple of days ago, so I'm all like sore up the side, and it's lovely.
And isn't it lovely? And the thing is, if you were sat at a desk right now in an office, in a male environment, this wouldn't look weird. It wouldn't.
It would a bit.
Would you?
If I had my laptop there.
But if you just stood up and you just kind of went, like that, so you stretched and then you just literally rotated.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a particularly conspicuous.
No, it's not.
It's not like I'm getting you to stand on one leg and start doing some weird stretch. This is just a twist around your abdomen, but it shows you quite how stiff we are in our lower body.
Should we change
rotation? Change direction. So basically, and when you get really good, you're going to go all the way back and all the way forward. So ultimately, you're kind of at 90-degree angle eventually. When you start, go gently.
Yeah.
But when a lot of the Qigong movements are very much about twisting in the middle of the abdomen. And can you feel like your waist immediately? It's like,
I feel better already.
Right.
Do you hear that deep breath there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrific.
So these are really simple.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing to do. Yes, we can build on that. If you look at the book, there's all sorts of other exercises going on in there. And indeed, I work with a brilliant Qigong master who I work with. Am I allowed to plug him? Because he's amazing.
Yeah, cool.
A guy called John Munro.
Yeah.
Who I really highly recommend. He lives in New Zealand, but he runs a system of Qigong called Long White Cloud Qigong, which it took me a long time to find a Qigong master that I felt just talked Western language to Western people.
What's his name again?
John Munro.
John Munro. Okay.
He's brilliant, and Long White Cloud Qigong is his. He comes over to
because I need to know someone to follow this. I don't know where I'm looking online. I just search Qigong on YouTube.
And that's the problem. You can get that. That's the thing. I'd spent a long time researching it. This was years ago, and finally, thank goodness, met him. So all of the Qigong teachers that I now work with through the Heiyu method, because I have Qigong teachers working, there's a very, very simple series of Qigong. So the way we've structured it is that if you look at the book, I've given you a starter for 10. Like in the book are your basic daily 5 exercises. Really, really simple. And they're all filmed and they're all on my website and they're all on YouTube. So that's it. So just do those. And just do those 1 minute each every day. Just do that. Don't spend any money. Don't browse about YouTube. Just do that. They work. If you get interested and think, God, this is absolutely brilliant, and it is, then what we have is the Long White Cloud Qigong basic sequence is there's then 12 movements you do. And the 12 movements are called the 12 rivers. And what that means is you've got 12, in Chinese medicine, there are 12 functioning organs in the body, and each one of them has what's called a meridian, which is an energy channel which moves around the body. That's the basis of Qigong. And for 1 minute on each channel, you do an exercise. So it's a 12-minute sequence. So my sequence, my starters, is 5.
It's 5.
5 exercises, 1 minute each. Boom. Get used to doing those and thinking, God, this is good. Just do that. Once you've got used to it, think, wow, then you want to go to the 12. Then they need to be taught. And I've got a brilliant teacher over here, a guy called Aaron Collins Thomas. He's a ex-rugby player, personal trainer, like really brilliant, like blokey bloke, totally what you'd want. And he then teaches them. And then once you've learnt them, you don't need to carry on having lessons. It just takes a couple of hours to learn the sequence. And then you practice every day. It's only 12 minutes. Once you've got your head round doing that, so now you're doing a 5-minute and a 12-minute sequence, then there's another sequence that you can add to that, which is another 10 minutes. And then suddenly you've got yourself a 40-minute sequence that you do every day. And beyond that, then John Munro starts coming over to Europe. He does retreats. He does lessons on via the internet. So you're then plugged into an integrated system. And that was really what I was trying to achieve and why it took so long to create the brand, because there's so much kind of sclerotic information out there that here's someone like you going, oh, I'm really interested in Qigong. Okay, I'll go onto Google. Oh, now I don't know. Like there's this, I don't understand. It's all a bit weird, which is right, which is wrong. And I wanted to integrate it with saying, okay, look, start at the beginning. Start with like 1 minute things. Start with that exercise I've just shown you. Start with shaking. Start with using a comb in your shower. You know, if you're interested, if you feel tired and jet lagged or you're just exhausted, use a beauty restorer in the shower. There's nothing wrong with using that. All you're doing is moving the circulation. Step 1. Okay, step 2, strengthen the organs. Right, okay, that's where Qigong comes in. And that's a 12-minute sequence. It doesn't take long to learn. Okay. And then by the time you've got to this point of strengthening organs, and if you've still got an issue, it's like, okay, well, that's where the diagnosis comes in. It's like, okay, well, which organ is affected? And that's when, like, my personal diagnosis comes in and why I do the free live feeds. So that basically if, say, one of your listeners did that and said, wow, this is fascinating, and yet nonetheless after, say, 2 months was like, but I still feel exhausted at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, for example, and I'm still needing to reach for the coffee and the sugar at 3 p.m. because I'm so tired, that's when they can email in and I'll answer it on the virtual feed. Yeah. Because there's reasons why people feel tired at 3 p.m. and then we can bespoke it a bit more. So that's why it's a kind of integrated method.
And in terms of, I mean, your book is called Yang Sheng, The Art of Chinese Self-Healing. And when I was reading about Chinese medicine, I was really fascinated at how it's it's got so much history behind it, and it's been around for so long, and yet over the last 150 years, the art of Chinese healing has not only been kind of forgotten or was never really known, perhaps in parts of the Western world, but in China, it's also been forgotten.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that in this day and age we turn to pharmaceuticals and we turn to medicines as opposed to this system which has been honed and refined over thousands of years? Because it's quite sad, isn't it?
Very. Okay, herein lies my favourite subject of conversation. So if we look at the world, okay, the natural healing was our medical heritage, okay? And interestingly, a friend of mine who studied Western medicine said when she did her degree, in the first year you studied the history of medicine, and it starts in 1750. And I laughed. Except I didn't.
What did they do before 1750?
Thank you. What the heck were human beings doing for the last however millions of years?
Working out how to heal each other.
And trust me, they weren't
plants.
Right. They weren't distracted with Sky Sports and Netflix in those days. They had plenty.
Well, shame they didn't have Sky Sports.
Shame they didn't. They were probably playing sport. If my husband was in a previous life, they definitely would have been playing football. But they had plenty of time to think about this stuff, and people needed to stay alive then just as much as they do now. So trust me, they were thinking about it.
Yeah.
Now, the Chinese state. Now, I happen to believe them, but hey, they state that Chinese medicine was the original natural medicine, and it went down the Silk Road, sort of into India and then into Egypt and the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, that spread all the way across the world. And we know jolly well that these ancient cultures, they were all connected, they were all talking to each other. And indeed, there's lots of information now which shows that what was going on in Latin America versus Egypt was basically the same kind of systems. It was the same concept, because human bodies do the same thing. But over the course of history, what's happened is in China, it went to this information is precious. It's valuable and it's quite mind-blowing, and not everyone can cope with it. So in those days, when you had a very sort of structured society where you had, the rich and the poor, and you were educated or not, consequently in China, it was a mastery system whereby the masters held the information and then you had to prove yourself worthy. Oh, and by the way, that's still like with the Chinese master I work with, he doesn't give it away. He waits for me to sort of ask the question and goes, like the comb. He could have told me 5 years ago, but he waited for me to say. And he's like, you want to ask about weight loss? It's like, duh, you could have told me.
Yeah.
But so that's what they did. In the West, it went into monasteries. And then it got kind of like clamped down, because basically it was considered that religious people could value and hold the information. And then with Henry VIII, we left the monastery system, and then we had our own, and then we ourselves went and colonized America. And so consequently, we then destroyed a whole load of, native information at the same time. And then globalization has taken place. In the meantime, Western medicine apparently started in 1750, and it was seemingly very good, because it did. If you look at where we were 100 years ago, it was changing the face of humanity, because people were suddenly living a lot longer and people weren't dying in the same way. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. And in the meantime, back in China, what happened was they had they called it, my brain's gone, a policy of basically a closed door policy. Because they're such a huge country, they're like, we don't want to deal with the West, we're not interested. So therefore their medicine stayed immune to what was going on in the rest of the world, because they simply weren't engaging with it. Scroll forwards 100 years at the turn of the 20th century, now Western medicine's looking all sparkly, and indeed is in many cases. I mean, I'm alive because of it, no disrespect to what it can offer us. And then when China started to implode at the turn of the 20th century, all of the Western superpowers were kind of taking bites of the port, and then Japan invaded and the whole thing collapsed, and their medicine looked shamanic, and they were embarrassed, and indeed it became illegal to practice Chinese medicine in China.
Yeah.
So Western medicine got its foothold there too, except Chairman Mao then reinstated it in 1950, went, hang on, it's a national treasure, except we're going to make it kind of communist. So it is a national treasure, but only in this way. So loads of babies went out with the bathwater, and therefore you've got this TCM system that's come back into the UK and the West with us traditional Chinese medicines. We go, oh, okay, that's Chinese medicine. And whilst TCM is brilliant at many things, it's not the full picture.
Yeah.
So suddenly we're living, to cut a very long story short, in this incredible moment in history where actually we are able to integrate the two. And that's the great thing about it. We in this country have the privilege of free healthcare. Okay, we do. It's a privilege. We're lucky to have it. There's problems with it, but it's a privilege. But if you look after yourself and use this wellness aspect of Chinese medicine in the wellness space over here, you simply don't need it. You won't need Western healthcare if you look after yourself properly. And that's what's so brilliant about now incorporating and equalising Eastern and Western medicine. There's a place for both.
There is. And incorporating different techniques for kind of balance and wellness, which I suppose this podcast is all about as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just interrupting this podcast for one moment to remind you that it is brought to you by Ketoko MCT oil. Pretty much the purest MCT oil on the market. If you head to Amazon and you type in Ketoko, so that's keto with a KO on the end, you'll find Ketoko MCT oil. It is 99.8% C8 oil delivered to you in a glass bottle, and it's non-drip. And non-drip is the kind of holy grail, by the way, of MCT oils, because most of them, they just kind of dribble down the side, and once you've got it on your clothes, that's it. You might as well write off that t-shirt, because MCT oil ain't coming out in the wash. So it's Ketoko MCT oil. If you head to Amazon and type in Ketoko, keto with a KO, you'll find that. You'll find the green powder, which has only 2 grams of net carbs per serving, and all sorts of different greens in it, including alfalfa and celery, cucumber and all the rest of it, and only 2 grams of net carbs, and also a collagen powder as well. Enter the code ZESTOLOGY, you'll get 10% off, and I'd love to know what you think. Okay, now back to the show. So going back to the code.
Yes.
It all took off. Was it a journalist from the Telegraph who came a couple of weeks ago?
No, the Telegraph was the original piece on the beauty restorer.
Okay,
the comb was a lovely journalist called Victoria Woodall, who writes for many people, but in this instance for the Daily Mail.
The Daily Mail first, but then it's just completely taken off.
Yeah,
hasn't it?
It was really interesting to kind of watch the ripple effect, because it went live last Monday in the Mail, and then immediately got picked up by the Sun, so it went into the Sun the next day, and then it entered some global newsfeed that probably you're more aware of than I am. And then all of a sudden it was in South Africa and Australia, and then it got picked up by Elle in Germany, and then it got picked up by a whole load of other feeds as well. So it's suddenly sort of...
How exciting.
Yes, thank goodness.
So the journalist came here, didn't she?
Yes.
And it just reacted really well with her straight away.
Yes, she just had a very good reaction to the... I mean, she herself is... the piece was very much about weight loss, and is this kind of like this amazing and sort of, anti-cellulite weight loss tool? Can this be true? She herself is unbelievably slim, so I was looking at her thinking, I'm not sure if you're going to get much benefit. But on the tiny little bit that she did have, she could see what it was doing and how it totally worked. But it's not just about the fact that it's a weight loss tool, it's just the fact it makes you feel so good when you're doing it. And from an energy point of view, it wakes you up. And that's the key. And yes, the extra benefits are actually you can get into shape at the same time. But it's how these things make you feel that makes them so good. That's why I get so excited about them.
And then what about your life? Because I always find it quite interesting when I speak to people who know so much about their kind of chosen discipline. And obviously, we know you've got plenty of balance in your life. You like a weekend at Glastonbury, just as you like a little bit of wellness. And I know from having chatted beforehand, you've got a big family as well, and you've got this business too. How often do you use this stuff, and how often do you forget?
Oh, God, no. I genuinely use this stuff all the time. There's no, I forgot to gua sha this morning. Gua sha is a non-negotiable for my skin. I mean, I'm nearly 50, ta-da, and I'm sat here with no makeup. You
look great.
Thank you very much. But because I'm not when I look at some of the people in this market space, they're kind of genetic goddesses, and I'm not a genetic goddess. I'm just me. That's just got this obsession with Chinese medicine. But I'm having to sit in the sphere as these genetic goddesses, and you sort of sit there thinking, I'm not really going to quite look like that because I wasn't born a supermodel or an actress, and so these techniques basically, make a relatively average person look their best. And thank goodness for that. So gua sha from a beauty point of view, I do absolutely every single day without fail for at least 5 minutes.
And that's face.
That's for my face.
And arms as well.
Right. Well, then the comb. Yeah. So I will do the comb in the shower. I mean, I say to people, just do it for about a minute or two, because I'm trying to get people to do it. But once you start doing it for a minute or two, you'll think, God, this is amazing. And then suddenly you'll find yourself wanting to be in your shower for 5 minutes because the benefit is so huge. So I will comb my body for, I'd say, at least 5 minutes a day in the shower, because it's just amazing. And then I'm awake. So I'm like, well, I don't need to do anything else, because that's given me what I need to because I've got a lot. I like everybody. We've all got so much going on. So I need these things. This isn't me onerously adding something in. This is like a toothbrush going, would you forget to brush your teeth? No, it's gross. You lie there going, oh, I haven't done my teeth, that's so disgusting, I'm going to have to get up, I know I'm a bit drunk, but I'm just going to have to, and in my case, makeup off as well. But, you have that, oh, it's gross. It's the same thing. If you don't do these techniques, your body doesn't feel right. And you think the Chinese masters were always about making sure that you're looking at what you're doing with your body and giving it what it needs. So we think about diet and nutrition. Oh, yes, I need to eat healthily because I'm exercising or I'm rushing around or I've got a big job or big responsibilities. But there's more to it than just diet and exercise. I remember the Dalai Lama said, they said to Master, how often do you meditate? And he says twice a day. And they said, well, what do you do when you're really busy? And he went, I meditate more. And everyone went, oh, yeah, that's kind of true. And I think of that quote so many times.
Yeah.
Because the busier I get, the more I do this stuff.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And actually, obviously I told you we've got a new baby, and it's so hard to find the time to meditate in the same kind of discipline that I was before. I'm really struggling with that.
Yeah.
And I used to really enjoy enjoy maybe isn't the wrong word. It's the last thing I want to do when I wake up in the morning. I want to get up and get at them. But I am still meditating, but not first thing in the morning. It just seems to be something there's not the time for at the moment. But I mean, as Josh Waitzkin says, he's a really famous author that I absolutely love. He says, you don't want to meditate in the rose garden, you want to meditate in the storm. That's when it's more important. And it is important, isn't it? So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very important to look at, we live in a very strange culture for healthcare because, well, we do and we don't, because things are changing now, which is good. But the kind of preconceived idea of this is that life should be comfortable and everything should be easy. And it's not fair if it's not. That's kind of the viewpoint people tend to take. Whereas when I'm working as a practitioner, I look at that and go, actually, that's not strictly true. We grow through adversity. And if you take yoga or sport as an example, that if you take yourself to the limit of, say, a yoga pose or a strike to hit a goal or something like that, what that means is that the rest of life feels a bit easier in comparison because you've gone that extra mile. So he's absolutely right. So suddenly everything feels a bit easier because you've been through a really hard time, and it makes you strong. And from a health point of view, it's very important to be strong because actually by living in an eternal comfort zone and in a sort of suppressive approach to our bodies, into eat sugar, have an alcoholic drink, take an antidepressant, have a painkiller, it's just suppressing, it's driving things inwards and it's making us weaker. So, you think, well, it's only going to be 3 generations time before, the human race is pretty weak because we haven't had to struggle for anything. And it's quite interesting. I know we look at global warming and think, oh, we're just going to flood ourselves to death. You think, well, yeah, but we'll just destroy ourselves anyway by a comfort zone. So it's very important to go beyond what's comfortable. That's
as good as an explanation as any that I've heard for things like cryotherapy or plunging into a cold pool or something like that. I mean, it is true, isn't it? It's nice to be comfortable. Right now, quite warm. We've closed the window so we can't hear too much tree cutting. It's just quite nice, isn't it?
But pampering is the destruction of the human body. We're designed to. That's why we love sport. We're designed to excel, right? That's what's so exciting about watching it, when something's so difficult to achieve and yet you achieve it, because what you're showing is the excellence of the potential of the human body. So if we're not doing that, translate that winning goal to a normal person just doing their life, we have to apply that to our everyday lives. Which is probably why we like watching sport. It reminds us of what's possible, and therefore introduce that into your life. Introduce, from a comfortable point of view, these simple techniques because they feel good and they're nice. But then look at your life and go, okay, my life is difficult right now. I'd say that applies to everybody. Everybody is just time poor and exhausted. And it's like, okay, so what do we need to do about that? We've got to apply these techniques right into the heart of where we are at our most busy, which is why these techniques were being designed for like minute moments. You can do meditations in a minute. The smiling breath ritual, which is, again, on my website, one of the key rituals, which is completely free, you're using air, is a minute meditation that you can do. You can do it in a minute. You can descend into meditative space for 1 minute and just do it one breath at a time and come out with the breath. So you could meditate 100 times a day now. It's about changing. This is what children do to you. They stretch you and they force you to change. It's no longer just about you. It's about them and your relationship to them, which grows you in turn. So the very suffering of the sleepless nights and the fact that you can't do your normal routine improves your body. So it's like, okay, well, how do I adjust to this? Well, actually, I'll have to change my meditation techniques. The Taoist masters, and again, I talk about in the book, there's walking meditations. There's single breath meditations. Then you can take that single breath and go and sit in the bath and use, say, for example, the bath salts to deepen it and take that into a 20-minute meditation. But what you're doing is you're using the breath and the mind and you're reactivating it. You're constantly going back to that place the rest of the day. So you give your body that stillness at one moment, even if it's only 5 minutes. And then many times during the rest of the day, you engage back, you go back to it. So, and the thing with the rescue breath is you could be sat like right now at this table or in a boardroom or at your desk working or in a car, and you can be doing the rescue breath and be completely engaged with what's going on around you, and no one knows what you're doing. And yet actually what you're doing is healing the body with oxygen in a really simple way.
And we've not got too much time, but the rescue breath?
The rescue breath it's on the website. It's basically you just breathe in, and as you breathe out, you imagine a smile extending across the lower abdomen, and then you just breathe back out again. And what it does is it engages the vagus nerve.
Is that the smiling face?
Yes, it's just a smile down in the lower abdomen. It's all shown in the book and on the website.
Right.
But it's a very simple, what we call a Yang meditation, which is that's the entry point to meditation. Yeah. The emptying your mind of everything, that's a Yin meditation. It comes later. That's why people struggle with meditation. Oh, I can't do it. Of course you can't. We've been programmed from birth to be active and reactive non-stop, increasingly so.
Oh, especially now.
Yeah. And then suddenly you're expected to just, decant and sit there like this. It's like, no, what you have to do is you have to trick the monkey mind and give it something to think about. Oh, the smile, yes, I can do that. And you hook the mind back with the smile. And by engaging it down into this lower abdomen, you're, from a medical point of view, engaging with the root of the vagus nerve, which controls the heart rate, but also you're giving the brain something to think about, and you're descending it out of the mind straight down into the body. And it's easy. So when the mind starts thinking about what
distraction, that's a good technique.
It's called tricking the monkey mind.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it a very simple meditation that you can just do for 1 minute or one breath. It's one breath at a time. And you can walk with it, you can sit at your desk with it, you can then go and sit in 20 minutes and meditate like that, but you just do it one breath at a time. Very, very simple, very powerful.
I like this. I think people will have just done that
I
while
hope.
they've been listening, and they might have done the shaking as well.
Yeah, and that abdominal twist.
That was good. I enjoyed that.
Oh, I love that.
Could you tell that I just felt a great sense of release afterwards.
A natural sportsman, obviously.
A very unnatural sportsman, which is why playing cricket for the first time in 20 years has left me really stiff and in need of something like that. It was lovely. So, something I've asked everybody, what is one book that you would recommend and one tip for living with more energy?
The book I'd recommend is a wonderful, wonderful Chinese master called Mantak Chia, who's...
he trains in Thailand, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He has a retreat in Thailand. He's brilliant, and he's the most incredible guy. And he has written so many books. But one that I really love, and I recommend at the back of my book, is called The 8 Immortal Healers. And what that means is the 8 healing devices that human beings have at our disposal, of which diet and nutrition is only one and not the first. And he goes in them one at a time. And I found that book really, really interesting and very easy. And sorry, the second question?
One tip for living with more energy and vitality.
Oh, well, that's easy. Just do the reset ritual every single morning, because it totally works. And repeat when you're feeling tired.
Yeah.
Am I allowed another tip? Please, please, please.
Yes.
Okay. That if you get that afternoon dip, that is your body asking for rest. Like it asks for food when it's hungry. So don't negate it and go, I'm just going to push on through and have coffee and a biscuit. It's actually just use the rescue breath and just sit and just give yourself even 2 minutes with your eyes closed to just give rest. When the body's feeling fatigued like that, it's asking for rest. So please give it to it.
That is nice, because most people get an afternoon dip.
They do.
And I certainly notice it's really based on diet. The more carbs I have at lunch, the more of an afternoon dip there is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But dips is request for rest. And indeed, in many Japanese companies, for example, they are totally allowed to have meditation time in the afternoon. It's considered normal because they understand the energy patterns of the body. There's reasons why we get that dip, which is for another conversation.
Yeah.
But they recognise that, and therefore it's acceptable. And that's something that I talk to officers about all the time.
Yeah.
Because we are...
It's not accepted, though. I mean, certainly at my Sky Sports, it's a traditional journalist's environment. And I'll go in, and if I've got like an hour before I go on air, for example, I'll go into the changing rooms now, guys. Actually, what I'll do is I'll have a sleep or a meditate. But I don't tell them, because they'd be like, well, why aren't you at your desk working? And I know that it's the best thing I can do for myself before I go on air to be at my best.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that is changing. I mean, I'm working with a lot of, very kind of male institutions in terms of bringing this stuff in, because they recognise that, the human being does not wake up, start work at 9 a.m. and finish at 5 anymore.
Yeah.
And even if we did just do that, the body does not do the same thing at 9 a.m. as it does at 3 p.m. We're not designed to be like that. And therefore, what matters is actually getting the best out of your workforce and keeping them well. And this is where I go in and consult, because this wellness space is now huge, because it's no longer a question of waiting for the body to get sick and then fixing it. You can prevent all this stuff and actually pushing through the 3 p.m. thing, with caffeine. I mean, it's like madmen drinking scotch and smoking fags at work. It's like, we look at that now and we go, oh my God, did they actually do that? Yeah, they will. In 10 years' time, we will look back at the not being allowed to rest at 3 p.m. and think it's completely inhumane.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm going to make it so.
Katie, it's been really good to meet you.
Oh, you too.
The book is Yang Sheng, The Art of Chinese Self-Healing. More importantly, where can people find everything? Well, not more importantly, but as important, where can people find everything else and the comb?
Okay, so the book is on Amazon.
Yeah.
But all the products are on my website, on the Hey You Method website. And the comb as well, and you can buy it all on Instagram as well, which is the Hey You Method, so all of it available. And we bundle the book with the products, so we've got a very nice bundle that you could buy the comb and the book for a nice discounted price.
Lovely. I like the cover of the book.
Yes, it's
very
brilliant.
nice
To go with the jade.
Yeah, it's great.
And the rose quartz, which is a bit less for the men. But yes, so thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's great to meet you. And I think Monday morning after a festival, I'll be using these techniques.
Absolutely.
Make you feel good.
Yeah.
Remember to check Katie out, and remember to check out the 3 Zesty Things newsletter at the same time when you're online. TonyWrighton.com. It goes out every Monday morning. See it as a compliment to the podcast. Occasionally mention the podcast, but I mention all the other kind of hacks and tweaks that I'm getting into as well. That's TonyWrighton.com, and once you get there, you'll work out what to do to sign up for that newsletter. And I think you'll find that quite useful. This podcast is brought to you by Ketoko MCT oil. Extra pure MCT oil, 99.8% CA oil in a glass non-drip bottle, 100% coconut, really good quality. And I'll tell you something else, no solvents are used in the production of Ketoko MCT oil. A lot of these MCT oils, they use solvents to separate the MCT oil from the rest of the coconut oil. It kind of defeats the point, because you don't really want solvents in your MCT oil. But Ketoko MCT oil is made in a very pure manner, and no solvents are used. It is instead some kind of centrifugal system that separates the MCT oil from the rest. It's quite complicated, but it means that there's no solvents used, and I think that's worth being proud of. If you head to Amazon and search for Ketoko MCT oil anywhere in Europe really, you'll find the MCT oil, and you'll be able to use the code ZESTOLOGY for 10% off. And let me know how you get on as well. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Thank you very much for choosing Zestology. Plenty more good stuff coming your way soon. And in the meantime, have a zesty week.